because of the cut of all telecommunications and internet from Gaza.
That's Palestinian National Initiative Mustafa Barghouti, the General Secretary of it. With me now for more on this is my colleague Saeed Shehata from BBC Arabic. Hello to you. Let's talk about, I suppose we've talked a lot there about the intensification of things overnight in Gaza. Let's talk about the people who are affected. Obviously, many people told to move south, weren't they, for their safety? But a lot of people haven't left, have they?
Yes, and it happened over the last 3 weeks when the Israeli authorities asked people to move. They moved, some of them moved, but there are some areas like Khan Younis in the south were hit by airstrikes. So some people decide to go back because they face problems to find food or shelter or all of this stuff because there is too much pressure. Because, like, for example, Khan Younis was supposed to be habitant for 100,000. Now there is 1.2 million, so there is too much. So some people returned back there. In addition to that, according to the UN, there is people in hospital North Gaza. They cannot, it said like it's impossible, according to the World Health Organization, to move to the south. So there is a problem of moving because of like logistics and the strikes, and even like UN mentioned there is many places, even in the south, like is not safe from the airstrikes, and these are problems. So the movement of the people sometimes, is go to the south, but some people go back to the north, and some people decide not to go because they might be not safe if they move to the south. So the problem is exacerbating there, and there is many pressure on people moving since all of these circumstances around them and affecting them their daily life because they don't have enough food and all of this stuff, even with the aid coming, but it's not enough.
Well, there's very little aid getting through, isn't there? And now, ahead of this expansion of the ground operation, as the Israel Defence Force is calling it, they have cut off communications as well. So people can't use the internet, they can't contact people, and also the aid agencies saying that they can't get in contact with their people on the ground. Absolutely.
There is what happened even with communication with some people, myself in Gaza. There is some people live outside Gaza, but their family in Gaza, they cannot. In London here, they can't communicate with them, so they are worried. Even the international organization like UN, the World Health Organization, UNRWA and others, they lost contact with people there, so they are worried. And on the top of that, since the aid was allowed to go into Gaza, only 84 aid lorries went there. Before the war, it was about 500 lorries. So imagine, and this the UNRWA said, it's a drop in the ocean. So the people need is more. Even the hospitals, according to the World Health Organization, they only allowed the emergency cases because the fuel is the problem. Because Israel saying the fuel might go to Hamas. So in this case, they stopped the fuel there, and the fuel, they said like Hamas stockpiles the fuel to use it for military purposes. So they stopped that, but it affecting the hospitals. So they should be differentiation between the Hamas and the humanitarian needs. So the reason there is call for humanitarian truce or humanitarian corridors in order to open the door to help the people in need. So it should
Israel has been pushing back on that and resisting that, hasn't it? I mean, obviously people talk about different things. There's to talk about a ceasefire, but there's also talk about these pauses, and this UN resolution yesterday called for a humanitarian truce. But Israel seems to be rejecting all sorts of possibilities.
The problem is in Gaza, they cannot, Israel from their side, it can't differentiate between Hamas and the people, but there is international organization there, and the checks on the border for the lorries to go inside. So there is many measures into place to make sure that this stuff don't go to Hamas. So in this case, there need to be more cooperation between Israel, international organizations, especially the World Health Organization, UNRWA, and the World Food Program, to make sure this fuel and other emergency needs for the people to go there. So it should be measures, and this the EU leaders called for humanitarian corridors and pausing the fighting. So all of these international calls need to be heard from Israel to help people, because people dying every day. There is more than 7,000 people died now, and there is some people, even one of the stories was like, I read it through some colleagues, about a father lost his child because he can't have enough, like, because the fuel in the hospitals, so there's a problem in helping.
Worry for the babies in incubators, isn't it?
Yeah, helping them. So the fuel affecting the daily life of people in hospitals, and even the shelters in the south, like according to the UN, the shelters now taking 3 times of the intended capacity of the shelters in Gaza. So the problem of intensity, the density of the people there, the health needs, the food needs, the water, but on the top of that, the fuel to make the hospital working. So I think the international organization can make sure that this stuff cannot go to Hamas. So I think there is need for that in order to help the needy people.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Saeed Shehata. Let's